Yes. Welcome to IMPRI Web Policy Talk. I request Sir to proceed with the deliberation.
Yes, Professor Utpal.
Yeah. So, good afternoon, rather good evening here. I am Professor Utpal from Northeastern Hill University, Shillong, and very cold weather here as usual. Now it is December. So, and in this cold weather also we see some heat wave around Delhi of the farmers' agitation. So today we have our very pertinent and relevant topic related to this recent farmers issues. India's new agricultural laws 2020, as all of you know, and looking beyond farmers' concerns. So for such a topic that will be discussed under the Eco Development Discussion Series we are having under Impact Policy Research Institute's initiative in respect of the state of economic development in South Asia. Specifically, we are giving emphasis on the government's policy changes to tackle different situations or obstacles that is coming, not only in the history or past, specifically current pandemic situation, to tackle the reverse the adverse impacts of this pandemic as well. And most of you know that now agriculture has been considered as the savior, that in this pandemic situations where industry and other sectors, transport, everywhere, tourism has not been performing and it gone severely have setback. But agriculture still maintains some growth because of the good monsoon this year, and that helped economy from its collapse, not to go for collapse, and to maintain some amount of the growth. Otherwise, the negative growth that we saw in the first quarter expected that 29.5 or more than that, so around 23.9, sorry. And another second quarter also we saw the negative growth, but it could be more 40 or 50%, but agriculture somehow helped us. So anyway, so you know that in these three laws, the basic tenets that were taken, that on the presumption and government's effort to increase the level of income of the farmers, and majority of this country depends on the agricultural sector. You know, more than 2/3 of the population and the labor class also in agriculture. However, laborers' income or the farmers' income has not increased at that rate. Even the growth of agriculture has been around 2%, 1.5, sometimes 3%. It never crossed beyond that. But there are some differences between small and marginal farmers and the big farmers, even after the green revolution that we observed after the mid-1960s. But in many cases, we attained a lot from the agriculture, because we found that self-sufficiency in the food grains production, import has been reduced. Rather, we are much of the agricultural produce and agricultural processed products, in milk production, in fish production, oil seeds production. So many efforts have been given, and several success stories on oil seeds also. In these three laws, actually, how to improve the farmers' income, that government apprehended that if we changes this rule and make the new law, under which three more prominent or most important clauses are given. One, that farmers can sell their product anywhere beyond their state, that is, they can go to outside the state, and where the other states will have very least control, means there will be no embargo, no taxes, like that. And that means their mandis or government control procurement policies that will be reduced, and there is an apprehension that the subsidized or MSPs may not be there in future, and so tussles are going on. And here concern is also there, the majority of the small farmers, if there is no cooperative, who produce in a small quantity, how they can carry their products to outside the state, far away, and sell their products, and the uncertainty in the market, that some information, if comes that there is a huge high price in other states, But after reaching the product, it may be realized that the price is not that high, rather transport cost eaten up whatever their profit could be. Then there was the abolition of the Essential Commodity Act, and that means that there is a chance, no limit for the hoarding of some essential items. And so the thing is that if on hoarding there is no limit, that means one can preserve and sell afterwards when there is the high price. But there again the same question remains: who can hoard, who can preserve their product, so that many of these are the perishable products, some are non-perishable, of course, rice and wheat. But who can make this profit, whether big businessmen or the big farmers, how it will help the small farmers, that is also a big concern, and that we are clueless, and so how logics only we have to find out. And thirdly is that in order to facilitate the farmers to acquire or access better technology, capital, etc., that there is a clause new that has been added, that they can go for contract farming. Contract farming, of course, in our country we have seen earlier also. Since 1990s, this has already come, but in the rule it has been, in the law it has been enacted. So there is an apprehension or thinking that in this way, if they go for in advance some contract with the business people, so farmers can avoid the market risk afterwards if there is a crash of the market, so they will not be adversely affected. But there is also apprehension that major benefits, whether it will go to the businessman who is in contract because of the bargaining capability. So anyway, all these things are there. There are many other aspects of it. So we will be looking forward to hear from Dr. Ranjit Singh Ghuman, who is a famous educationist and economist as well. He is a professor of eminence at the Guru Nanak Dev University, and he is also a professor at the Center for Research in Rural Industrial Development, CRRID, Chandigarh, India. He is a NAC member, peer review team member, and social science faculty member of the Punjabi University. He was a member of the 6th Finance Commission of the Government of Punjab, and he was the coordinator of Southwest Asia Study Center and UGC Research Awardee of the Punjabi University. So he has acclaimed a lot during his career. He was the chairman of Punjab government's committee on MSP, which is very much connected with today's talk, minimum MSP of the agricultural commodities, and also member of the State Advisory Committee on Electricity Regulated Commission, which is another important aspect, because electricity is consumption in agriculture, how pricing, all these things, government policies enter in that case. He is the vice president of Indian Society of Labor Economics. He has written a lot of books, journal articles in abroad as well as in India, so which are of highly international repute. His one important book I am mentioning here, because he has a lot of things that he has done, I cannot mention all, that is Emerging Water Insecurity in India, a lessons from the agriculturally advanced state. That means I think it is a Punjab, and how the high productivity application of new technology that endangered the water security or related to it. Also, his projects work are related to the dynamics of the drug addiction and its abuse in Northwest India, Indo-Pakistan trade embargo, how it affects the Punjab's economy, that is impact on the Punjab economy, the state of, so all these, there are numerous, I don't want to mention one by one. So from all this, we already learned that he is already a befitting man to throw light on these new agricultural laws and how we can overcome all the obstacles, that is the apprehensions that we have, and look beyond this farmers' concerns. After mitigating this, how we can go on the path of the sustainable progress, especially in the agricultural sector. So I welcome Professor Ranjit Singh Ghuman to today's discussions, and request him to take the floor and deliver his lecture. Thank you all. Also the panelists as well.
Thank you, Professor Day.
Sorry. I forgot to mention today we have apart from the director Arjun, we have Amarendra Reddy, doctor and professor, Sarna Siddhas Bamvepa, and also Professor G. Sridevi. I missed her lecture one day. And Professor M.V. Ashok, who was the CMD of NABARD Mumbai headquarters. So I welcome them all also as well. Now, Professor Ghuman, please take your floor.
Thank you, Professor Day, for saying very nice words about me. I'm pleased to be part of this very high-profile panelists, Professor Reddy, Professor Varna, Dr. Professor Shri Devi, M.V. Ashok. And let me first express my gratitude to Dr. Arjun and Dr. Simi Mehta for giving me this opportunity to be part of this panel and share my thoughts on what is going on in the country on the agricultural front. Having said that, I will simply say that right from 5th of June, I'm grappling with these first ordinances, then acts, then laws, and all that, profusely written about it and even on electronic media. So I will not, all the panelists and so far all the participants on the floor from various parts of India are well conversant with what these laws are. But still, just in a minute, I would like to say that on 27th of September 2020, these acts were passed by the parliament, and then in very hurriedly they were signed by the president and they became law. In fact, I would not read the nomenclature of all the acts, but simply one is dealing with contract farming. That is was there, and the other is dealing with the, you see, APMC and MSP, and the third is very thin, 2 pages, 3 pages, Amendment to Essential Commodities Act. And this is also known as popularly as Essential Commodities Holding Act. So Press D has always gave you the broader contours of these articles. I will not go into the detail, but I would start from that there was a full very big advertisement by the government in the newspapers a couple of days earlier that farmers beware of lies. Farm bills paves way for prosperity. Nothing else. Whose prosperity? Farmers' prosperity or somebody else's prosperity? But lies they are saying. Farm bill is conspiracy for denying minimum support price to farmers. This is a government says it is lie. Truth is, as per the government, farm bill has nothing to do with with the support price. MSP is being given continued in future too. Second is, now the mandis will end. This is another lie according to government or apprehension of the farmers. And the government says mandi system will continue as it is. Then third is farm bill is anti-farmer. This is again government says lie. This is not truth. And truth according to government is farm bills gives freedom to farmer, can sell their crop to anyone, any establishment, etc. One nation, one mandi, one farm for all. All this is there so far. Second thing I would like to share that right from 5th of June, on 3rd of June, ordinance was there, 5th of June, guest notification was there. And right from then, the government is very determined to implement these laws, and government is trying to convince hard to the farmers that it's very well in their interest, it's historic change and all that. But at the very outset, I would like to say, if it is a historic change, then my take on this is that what was the urgency and emergency, or what held up it was going to fall on farmers if these ordinances could not be there, if these laws were not there. What I would like to share with you, that during the period of Corona, in an unconstitutional manner, when Parliament session was just 3 months away, they could bring those ordinance instead of ordinances. They could debate in the Parliament. And second is that it is anti-constitutional. As per India's constitution, Schedule 7, there are so many entries, 16, 17, 32, 33, and so on. I can go on. But as per the constitution, the agriculture is a state subject. Even in trade, if state wants to enact some act, it can do. If president gives assent to the state act, it will prevail. But of course, on the concurrent list, when trade is there, Centre's Act prevails. So there are fundamental issues which point needle to farmers' apprehensions and uh, government's willingness not to help farmers, but to help somebody else in the name of farmers. Nomenclature of the articles, acts is very, very attractive and good. But you see, nomenclatures in the what are the contents? Everybody knows, no, their government was not ready to listen to farmers, but later on it climbed down. Now they say we are ready to amend all that and all this. I will not go into the details right now. Now, Mr. Tomar's open letter in media, 8-page open letter in media on 18th. Again, the government is having the same stand that it will help the farmers, it will bring prosperity to the farmers. Already, where is the double income of farmers, which they promised? Now, then Supreme Courts. The Supreme Court, I don't know at whose instance everybody has the right to go to Supreme Court, and Honorable Supreme Court has said that it is fundamental right of the farmers or anybody else to protest peacefully. So all this points to one thing, that government was in a hurry under the in the period of Corona, when it was very active, and one fails to understand that what prompted the government to issue ordinances, make acts, and make laws. And if at all the government is convinced that these reforms were very urgent, very necessary, what was the harm to consult the farm leadership, to the state elected leadership? It should have been debated in the state legislatures and all that. There are so many things one would like to add and add, so on. Now, then I would like to say that again, there are so many economists and other social scientists, including Utpal and others, and even one very activist, Devinder Sharma. They all that they are emphasizing that these are not in the larger interest of the farmers. Now, point here is that government has put all its machinery at its disposal, whether they are the ministers, whether they are bureaucrats, whether they are their own economists or Niti Yog, they have put in all efforts to convince the farmers. My question is that if it is in the interest of farmers, then do we consider that farmers do not know their interest? Do we consider that farmers are stupid? They can't understand their interest? Is it the farmers' hobby to agitate and sit on the road in this cold weather? What is this? If at all it is there, they should convince the farmer. And farmers are not irrational. Farmers are the most rational being, even in the economic sense, on this earth. So that is the second point which I would like to say. Then what are the stated objectives? This is very funny and interesting. The stated objectives are freeing the farmers from middlemen and controls. Okay, very fine. We can free the farmers from middlemen by enacting these acts. But where is the guarantee that new middlemen will not be there? And where is the guarantee that new middlemen will be more farmers friendly than the present system of middlemen? That is another issue which needs to be debated. And today it appeared in the media about 10 economists have wrote a letter to the agriculture minister and also to the PM that due to these 5 reasons, you are requested to repeal these laws. And in democracy, it should not be prestige. It's the democratically elected government. Now then, the stated objective, I fail to understand, and no senior person will agree to it, that the new laws will put an end to the middlemen. There will be new middlemen. Then third objective is facilitating and encouraging private investment in agriculture and rural infrastructure. Who was stopping them to invest in agriculture and rural infrastructure till the moment? Who was stopping them? That's another issue. Then the next stated objective is private investment in agriculture. In Bihar and some other states, there is no such laws since 2006. How much investment has gone there in agriculture? How much investment has gone there in rural infrastructure and all that? One fails to understand. Then assessing the remunerative prices to farmers and their produce through contract farming, okay, and efficiency and competition. Now, already the contract farming, I can share with you that in Punjab, we had about 30 years back, 35 years back rather, Pepsi and others. The bitter experience the Punjabi farmers had, it is something to be shared. But due to paucity, I will not go into that detail. But the thing is, the contract farming, who will benefit? And Sukhpal has clearly written that so far, IIM from Ahmedabad, Sukhpal has written that so far it has not helped small and marginal farmers, and 86% of farmers in India are small and marginal farmers. And then where is the level playing field? Let there be even 400, 500 small farmers, a big company contacts them. How can they compete? Where is the level playing? Is it freedom or serfdom? There will be new masters and more driven by the market and profit rather than all this. And how one can assume that private companies are not philanthropists. They will help the farmers. They will produce, they will control, input they will control, and purchase they will control. And at a trivial issue, they can say that your quality is not up to the mark which was written in the agreement, so we can't do it. What will you do? Coming to Essential Commodities Act, it is rightly said that it is Essential Commodity Holding Act. What is the necessity to free essential commodities? Suppose there is any problem, of course, you have legally allowed the holder to charge 100% more price in perishable commodities and 50%. You are legally, and there is no cap on holding. How will you? In 1943, do you think the famine of Bengal was due to simply non-availability of the grains? It was hoarded. It was given to the army by the British government at that time. So lakhs of people in West Bengal. And who can assure that there won't be any artificial scarcity? Who can guarantee? That's very, very serious. So what I mean, my point here is that it is not the farmers' concern only. It is the all those who use, purchase, consume agriculture produce, and who can live without agriculture produce. This is already the crony capitalism has proved that government is not controlling all these things. So where's the guarantee that all this will happen? Then no, increasing farmers' income. I fail to understand. I come from a farming family. I've been doing farming till even after joining the teaching profession. Where is the guarantee of increasing? Is MSP, if you are so interested in increasing farmers, give them Swaminathan MSP. Why not? I have done some exercise. I thought I would share later on, but let me share with you. Now, farmers' demand on MSP is C2 plus 50%. That is Swaminathan MSP. And in CRRID market season, I would like to share the experience of Punjab. I have taken A2 plus FL, which the government says we have given Swaminathan. It is not C2 plus FL. C2, in fact, includes so many, two most important things which needs to be taken care of. Land rent, interest on the fixed assets and the management, all this. This is not there. So when I found out that A2 plus FL is 1245, A2 plus FL plus 50% is 1,868 per quintal. C2 is 1,667 per quintal, and C2 plus 50% is 2,500 per quintal. So difference between A2 plus FL plus 50%, which the government says Swaminathan MSP, is that of 632.5 rupees per quintal. Now, you see, paddy market arrival, if you see in Punjab only, I will not go into that detail, but I have calculated one figure. That is, if instead of A2 plus FL, the government gives Swaminathan MSP, the farmers of Punjab only in one crop, that is paddy, would have got 10,771 crore more in one season only. And in the case of, you see, wheat, the loss is 3,200 crores. So take this loss and deduct 6,000 rupees per annum, which the government is giving to the farmers. 6,000, and that too to the marginal and small farmers. And I have calculated and I deducted those 3 lakh farmers which are getting 6,000 rupees per annum. And I have multiplied, work out, and still the loss is there. The net loss is 30,496 crores. So just by giving some amount to the farmers, you are fleecing the farmers. You are not doing justice. You are befooling the farmers that we have given. In 2014, their manifesto says that we will give Swaminathan. But even Niti Yog's report was there. Now, Dr. Mechand's report at that time was there after Shanta Kumar committee that this C2 needs to be recalculated. Now, then, if that is so, then why did the government give affidavit after forming the government in 2014 that we cannot give Swaminathan MSP? And then why before 2019 elections they gave Swaminathan MSP, the so-called Swaminathan MSP, which is not so. So see the change. Now, what I mean to say here is that many people ask why farmers are not getting convinced by the government. The answer is that there is no credibility of the government in the eyes of the farmers. And you see, this what is called the demonetization. The 3 stated objectives, everybody knows what were there. So what was the correlation between demonetization and corruption? What's the correlation between demonetization and the terrorism? What is the correlation between counterfeit currency and demonetization? and they changed 50 narratives in 50 days. So in fact, government is run on credibility, not on other things, not on simple promises. And this is the fundamental reason that farmers are not ready to uh, take by what the government says. This is a fundamental. The government must realize it that why, after all, the convincing power of the government, why the farmers are not convinced. Anyway, this is something which I will not extend beyond that, but that was relevant. Now, after this, uh, what in reality is, uh, if, if you compare these stated objectives, what is reality? Uh, to me, it is chaining of the farmers, not freeing of the farmers. From one prison to another, which is more serious. And second is freedom to private players for entering into production, trade, and in unlimited storage. Then new middlemen. I will not elaborate these. We can debate on these. Then past experience of private investment. Then contract farming, past experience, and future insight. Then you see exploitation of farmers. Who can guarantee that these new players will not exploit the farmers? And how the farmers, we have done so many studies on farmers education level. Professor G.K. Chadha did a lot of work on farmers education and all that. And already NSS is 39-40% of the farmers are not interested in agriculture in Punjab. And my own study, when I was doing water study, 80% of the farmers said, we don't want to keep our children in farming. So already the situation is like this, and you are adding misery to the farmers' situation. Now, then dismantling APMC, MSP, one can simply understand that when there will be two markets, and if for a couple of years, it is deliberately done that they can give a good procurement price, they can procure, and once APMC is dismantled, they're conjoined. APMC and MSP are conjoined. If MSP is not there, then APMC will not be there. And who can you assure? You can, even if you make law that MSP is legal, how can you compel the private players to purchase the amount which is marketable? Of course, you can sue the purchaser if purchasing is done below MSP, but you cannot compel the purchaser to must purchase. And in that case, what will the farmer do? And mostly, I would like to, I may not surpass my time, but I would like to share with you that in Punjab, paddy was not in Haryana, in Western UP, paddy was not the natural crop. In 1970, 9% area was sown area, net sown area was under paddy. Now it's 85%, 75% of the net sown area is under paddy. And it was promoted by the central government, by the state government, public investment, and enabling environment. And now the government says that you should take care of yourself. How the farmers can go in for diversification without the enabling environment, which was done when country needed food security. This is very something irresponsible, that when there was a need, you were supporting farmer like anything to produce more paddy, more grain. But now when it is you are having some relief, other states are being self-sufficient or surplus in food, you are saying that you should do on your own. No, they will have to, even if somebody argues that these laws will help diversification, I say these laws will twist the arm of the farmer to go in for diversification. Why arm twisting? Why not enabling environment? Why not put these laws in abeyance or suspended for some time? Give farmers 10 years window period, that they give incentives to them. Until that, you continue to buy at MSP all the produce which they are producing. So that is not the way to treat the farmers who have been providing, who have helped the country to come out of this food deficiency and hunger and shift to more scenario. That is not the issue. Now they should come in with the same policy set with which the paddy was promoted. I will not go into much detail in that, but again, 2 points I will make on this, that already monopsony and monopoly will be, every economist, every student of economics understand what happens when monopoly is there and what happens when monopsony is there. Even if not monopsony, there is few buyers and 10 crores of farmers to sell, how they can deal with that, and how they can be saved from dictating price terms by the players, new players. Now then, farmer perceptions, very briefly, everybody knows, Press D has also shared with that. So dismantling MSP and APMC, this is the farmers' apprehension, and rightly so. Then dispossessing them out of their land, this is their apprehension, though Contract Farming Act says that it's not compulsory to for any farmer to contract, but again, there can be enabling environment and compelling environment when farmers will have to go in for contract, and then there are cultural issues, social issues with the prestige of the farmer, whether they want to be laborer or not, whether they want to be own farmer or not. That's then other things. Then pushing them towards litigation. Then there are socio-economic issues. So all these issues are very, very important in the case of these laws. And then ground reality and reasoning for agrarian crisis and increasing farm. Actually, what is happening in the country for the at present, if I start from present, 14% GDP is being shared by 50% of the workforce and more of the population. And there was time when 60% of the GDP was with agriculture, with 70% of the workforce. Now, all this agrarian crisis and agrarian distress and farmers' crisis and distress needs to be understood and addressed accordingly, not like this that now so you are responsible for your own. So already more than 3 lakh farmers have committed suicide in the country and laborers in Punjab during the last 18 years. 16,000 farmers and laborers, 45% laborers, they have committed suicide, which is known as a very, very prosperous state, and Green Revolution has done all this. Now, then corporate companies pressure, WTO pressure is there, all that this is there, which the government doesn't want to admit, but everybody who knows even a little bit of WTO or Dunkel draft or agreement on agriculture, everybody knows that there is international pressure also. Now, then Dunkel proposals. In 1990, Dunkel proposals came. They said either accept in toto or reject in toto. But here the government says you will have to accept these laws. You can't reject them. These are in your benefit. That's the problem. Even worse than Dunkel proposal. So, moot question is why farmers are not convinced with government's logic and government's argument. That is to be debated and needs to be debated. And all this, last but not the least, I would say that why putting all the burden or onus on farmers to support everybody else? Why? Now, how MSP is determined? Demand and supply, cost of production, price trends in the market, intercrop price terms of trade, minimum 50% as the margin cost of production. It's a minimum 50% of the marginal cost or the margin. It's not the total cost, average cost. Now, then likely implications for MSP and other consumers. So why you are not saying all this about industrial production, other consumer goods? You are only saying that if prices of food grains rise, there will be inflation. The people will not be able to buy. But if there is no produce, how will you take care of your food security act? which says that 67% of the population needs food security and all that. So these are the larger issues, but I would like to say that towards the end, I would like to say that I would request from this uh, forum to the government of India that to give thoughtful review to her stand of not repealing agricultural laws. That's very, very important. Short of that, the government has the option to suspend the operation of three laws, debate it in the parliament and state legislative assemblies with farmers associations and other stakeholders, and then bring the new laws which could serve the purpose of farmers as well as the so-called growth and development. And this is in the larger interest of a democratic country like India. So I think instead of in our letter also that it's the government responsibility is far more greater than farmers' responsibility, but farmers too would have to come to the table. They are not against for table talk, but there must be some gray area. One can argue that they have a government has agreed to this, that 6, 7 issues government has agreed, but still farmers are not willing to accept it, not willing to believe it. So issue is that how can this impasse can be solved? It is in nobody's interest, neither in the government's interest nor in farmers' interest that this situation should continue, and neither in the common man's interest, normal other citizens, that such a situation should continue for long. But the honest and foremost responsibility lies on the government. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity.
Professor Day.
So,
Yes.
thank you very much, Professor Ghuman, for your brief and important points that you have mentioned, and you have enlightened us with your own thought on this farm bill that has been recently enacted, and the concerns of the farmers. You have rightly pointed out that if benefit their farmers, why they are not understanding. There are both arguments are there in favor and against it. It has always been there. As when a child asks for something and we do not give, the child thinks that he knows is better, it is for his benefit, we are not giving. And if we give also, it may be that the ultimate result may be
the simply is
not that exactly what was expected.
You
it may
can't
happen.
compare it with child and with father. Sorry to say.
Yeah. So here, definitely farmers, we consider that Indian farmers are one of the best in the world, because in the difficult situation, difficult terrain, in where soil and agroclimatic conditions are also not suitable, there also they can grow their product. So that is also there. The technology, if not, their indigenous methods also they can utilize. But some of the people, they always give this question, and they rose here also in this question answer. Here somebody is writing as an anonymous. I don't know. So anonymous maybe does not want to identify himself. Here I would like to mention that it is not a political discussion. It is just an academic discourse, and definitely may have some political policy implications that may come out of the discussion. And this is our personal and nothing related to any politics. The question here, he is writing that if it is really true, so why only the western part of the country, that few states farmers only are agitating, why not the other parts? Some states, they are telling they are supporting this bill, even supporting this agitation, but they are not coming out. And in some states, farmers are opposing this movement. They don't want that the bills that has been approved or now enacted will be repealed. So they are in favor of keeping this. And even they are apprehending that if private players come into the market and in the farming sectors through contact farming and others, they take lead, that it may even benefit the farmers. So there are apprehensions and logics that I also wrote a small there in the reply that no, private players are always there. They earlier also they were there. Contract farming earlier they were there. The question is how it will benefit and how the concerns are not addressed and apprehensions. As you said there is an apprehension that gradually MSP may be withdrawn. APMCs will not function in that way, that it will generate, because all are depending on the market conditions, whether and to what extent market will be competitive. Unless it is a competitive market, then it is very difficult to establish that it will benefit. There's simple economics logic, as you know, because still now, whatever bills you introduce, you allow people, because of the what we call that amortization and other cost, that is transaction cost too much in this case, and it may even exceed the whatever benefit we are expecting, because that transaction cost sometimes may be very high that nobody talked to here. And this market imperfection and the bargaining capability, even if we think that one can go out of the states, states role will be less, taxation, this, that. But I also apprehend in your line that to what extent it will happen, because we don't know. Even as you told, the middlemen sometimes, because middlemen always exploitative relations were there, but sometimes they helped at the local level. I gave you one example that one small farmer, when his daughter's marriage was around the corner, but nobody was interested to buy the paddy in our area. At least one middleman came and gave him money and took his crop to sell, because of the relations that they prevail there, in the social relations that come out. In that, that also happens sometimes, that helping the poor, and they cannot wait that when price will go up to far away you go and this. So there are so many dimensions are also there in the agricultural relations, especially for the small and marginal farmers. So they cannot go beyond this also, that our financing system, capital market is not that strong that they can avail without collateral, this, whatever you tell. Anyway, there are many other things that may come. I don't want to take much longer time. Rather I prefer that our the panelists should speak. I think Professor M.B. Ashok has already left us. So now, as we have our Dr. Professor Sarna Sadasivam Vepa, who is now an honorary visiting professor of Madras School of Economics. Her Professor U. Shankar was also there. No, madam? I think.
Yes.
So I would like to invite her to give her points here on this farm bill and on your submission. Madam, please.
Okay. Thank you very much for inviting
Madam,
me to
Professor
participate
Vipa.
in this discussion.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for inviting me for this discussion. I'll be brief. I don't want to make too many points, because everything is already known, and why only the Punjab and Haryana farmers are getting the agitating and why not others is particularly because they are the ones who are the hit most, and then and they have the wherewithal to sort of fight. Whereas a large number of other people who are equally affected have no voice. I mean, because they lack the voice and they come. Just because somebody is not agitating does not mean that I mean, whatever action that has been taken is correct. But the Punjab and at least Haryana farmers being richer, and they have the capacity to sort of withstand and resist the government laws for a longer period of time, and they have come on the road. That doesn't mean that the rest is an acceptance of the entire farming community about this. So that's one point which I want to make. Because unless you really have a opinion survey conducted in various parts of the country and then come to a conclusion that whether it is good or bad and why it is good and why it is bad, and nothing is there. And then somebody coming on the road and agitating is taken as as the only proof that the others have no grievances whatsoever. That's one point. The other point which I want to make is that it's true that Punjab and Haryana farmers have been affected most. That is because these are the only two states probably which support the farmers and the farming community like no other state is doing it, and they've all given up in the sense that the farmers are fending for themselves. And for example, I come from the state of Andhra Pradesh where they sold off everything to the capital because they've given up farming altogether because it's such a horrible state. And also, of course, there are allegations that the land has been taken away from them by the middlemen, and the middlemen sold it, and it's the middlemen who are agitating, and it's not the farmers. I mean, it could also be true. But finally, what happens is, in all these situations, the farmer who is the farming who has become absolutely non-profitable anywhere in the world, more so for a small farmer in the case of India. There is no respite. Either they give up farming and start begging or depending upon the freebies that the government is giving, or otherwise nothing has been done much for farming here. So saying that the Punjab farmers are benefiting and so they are the only ones who are doing, and all the rest of the farmers are not affected is not right the right conclusion. That's number one. So if you really somebody interested, they should have a wide survey. The government should conduct it, and then come to a conclusion about the pros and cons of it. That's one point which I'm making. And the other the important point which I want to make is that there's nothing in these three except the Essential Commodities Act, nothing in the others which is not prevalent today. If the private sector, has been allowed to invest in storage, invest in markets, and then the future trading has been, started off with a great fanfare way back in 90s. And then what has the private sector done for farming? Nothing. Nobody in the private sector, as far as India is concerned, I don't know about whether foreigners enter or not, it's a different issue altogether, is interested in investing in storage structures. They're not interested in building private markets, which are very expensive, and they're not interested in building commodity markets. Look at Kerala's commodity market was thriving at one time. What has happened to it now? What happened to ENAM? What has happened to the reforms have been done year after year, and private sector has been asked to come into it in a big way, and they have asked them to go electronic and do this, that, and everything. Nothing happened. Why didn't it happen? It did not happen because there's no investors. If there is the same thing with infrastructure in India. Infrastructure in India said government didn't have the money, so asked the private sector to come in. The private sector took the money from the banks and never repaid, and there was no infrastructure. All the infrastructure came to a standstill because nobody is doing anything. So similarly, the nothing that prevented the private sector from doing it, and now these laws are going to change the heart of the private sector, except probably that they sort of reiterating that we can give money to the private sector, and again there'll be non-performing assets, and again it will come on the head of the people, ordinary people with the bank collapses and things like that. And so there's nothing that prevented the private sector, and particularly the Indian private sector, is not doing anything for agriculture. And then it's not their fault because the whole world agriculture is being supported by the governments. In which country is the private sector supporting the agriculture? I haven't seen any private sector. If it's already a thriving industry and exporting, it's a different issue altogether. So when it's only the government that has to come to the rescue of food security, and moreover, most of the farmers are net consumers. How many are actually the producers? Just because there is an excess production today, and just because so much is being, despite all the corruption that exists in the APMC. I'm not saying that agricultural producers markets are perfect. They're far from perfect. But at least what is happening is all the state governments, at least to win elections, are collecting paddy from these points where the traders come. It's not the farmers. Come and they're able to procure and find it easy to sort of give it to the poor people and maintain the food security and so that there's no starvation. So it's the only good is happening there. And the third point which I want to make is that these markets, even though they're absolutely imperfect, and it's only the traders who are coming there and selling, to the government, it's not the farmer who is coming and anyway, it is only the trader who is benefiting there. But even then, because they're an MSP and it has been, in fact, has been given to the trader, whoever comes to the APMC market, the entire prices will be around that MSP. The moment MSP and APMC loses its importance, don't know what's happening in the rest of the markets because there's nothing in the law that should report how much is being traded and at what price, because the private markets and the others, they can do whatever they like and there is no benchmark at all. At least the APMCs have become the benchmark of the price and the benchmark of the quantities that is being sold. But once that is not done, it's a big black box. You don't know what's happening. As it is, we don't know what's happening. We don't know how the GDP calculations completely changed, and then the 101 inconsistencies and no answers being given. So, and the one more important question, I won't take very long. Important question I want to ask is, what is it that the government is really gaining by bringing these laws? Because if they say, we are not touching MSP and we are not touching APMCs, they can continue. If both of them are safe and except the essential commodities, which is more of a consumer issue and more than that of a government issue, and also depends upon the situation, why should they bring in these laws today? And what is it in between the lines that government benefits from it? I have a strong feeling that laws like this will enable the government not to be transparent. Because now APMCs have certain laws, even though they have not reformed. So once you say that you don't have to take APMCs into consideration or whatever it is, Professor Ranjit Singh has already pointed out, and nobody is willing to trust the government. What happens is weakening of these structures will enable the government not to be transparent, and nobody knows what's happening, and so the benchmark will be lost. And so there's nothing. There's no gain whatsoever. And so the more fundamental question I want to ask is that what is it the government is gaining? Because everything is already in place today, and nothing has happened. And how is these laws are going to bring any extra benefit, are enabling the private sector to invest in agriculture or storage and other things? So that is a suspect, because why now and why so? And definitely I'm sure that Punjab and Haryana farmers are not the targets of this entire exercise, but that right now it seems to be so. And so it's quite interesting to know what the government is really planning to. I don't think anybody serious thinkers in the government itself will believe that the private sector will come in a good, big way and is going to invest. Everybody knows about it. And so I think one has to sort of try to read between the lines and to see what is it the government is trying to gain, and how is the farmer is losing is okay. And then is it because that shift of power from state government to the central government, through the back door of, say, corporates, are going to weaken the state government's position, because APMCs are all controlled by the state government? Could that be, something very important? Or this is something, it looks like a big puzzle because there is no obvious sort of benefit to the farmer, and there's no nobody believes really that the private sector is going to invest because right now you have too much grain, and nobody is able to export, and then the only benefit that we are getting out of excess production is that the poor people are getting it free, in the sense that Tamil Nadu gives it free. 35 kgs of rice, it gives free to everyone. I mean, I don't know whether farmers are benefiting or not is a different issue, but the consumers are benefiting. And then the Andhra Pradesh government and Telangana government are giving it at 1 rupee a kg. And what is the price of rice in the open market? Is something like 40 to 60 rupees, and particularly deficit states like Tamil Nadu and Kerala. I mean, the skyrocketing prices are there. And so, if you kill the system, are you sort of harming the farmer, or are you, I mean, harming the consumer? And so, what are the links between it, and what is the consequences of implementation? I mean, to the entire food security issue. So, I mean, it's not a simple thing; it's a very complex thing. And then what the government wants to achieve may not be able to achieve at all. And say 5 years down the line, I mean, nothing would have changed. Maybe APMCs will still flourish. I mean, depending upon the strength of the resolve of the state governments, as it happens in the case of Haryana and Punjab. They went out of the way and changed their state laws. And so, I mean, it's very difficult to say. But what is important to debate is that why is it they have introduced it, and what are the consequences to the farmers, what are the consequences to the producers, what are the consequences to the power struggle, and what is the consequences to allowing the corporates to come in a big way, if at all. I mean, they have been funded from outside or whatever it is, and these are the things which, I mean, somebody will have to look into. I'm sorry, I don't want to go further into the details, because these are the few things which I wanted to flag. Thank you.
Thank you. Very pertinent points, Professor Vepa. And the private investment is, as you mentioned, in infrastructure. Even in smart cities, Make in India, everywhere the private sector participation is really low. So moving ahead, Professor Utpal, we can go to our next discussion quickly.
So really, you are right, as I also mentioned there, Professor Vepa, that some people, they are arguing in that line that actually Punjab and Haryana farmers are great beneficiaries development projects, etc., etc. So they are getting benefit from APMC because APMC is Mandi, the government control thing, operates in Eastern India or in country, because they are most dependent on the market. So that is to some extent true, but also they are arguing that's why they are on the road. But the second point, another one, that to what extent private players they come for the development of agriculture. As I see in the contract farming also, even in Tripura's northern part of the Tripura bordering Mizoram, that in the orchards, they only private people come, the businessmen, that during the flowering time, they look at the gardens and bargain and fix the price. For a garden, maybe 1 lakh, 2 lakh fix. And after the harvesting of the orange, they take away when it will be harvested during this December, January. And for the processing further fruit juice, as your Neramak or Bangladesh's Pran, so they take away from here. And then they again sell back here the prans, lychees, you know, all these, squash or juice or whatever you get. So that apart from that, they never inculcate any training to the farmers, how to develop their farming, that after a few years when these orchards are spoiled, that is these orange gardens, how to revive it, what are the trainings, what are the inputs, they never do. Rather, it is done by the what you call missionaries, who help them in learning quite a few decades back. Since then, that area developed. So in many places. Similarly, that if they want to really keep APMC and MSP, then what is the further benefit? The logic only given by the government here, that that another additional option farmers are getting, that a private businessmen, they also buy from there, so they can get relatively more price or something like that. But that also how much will be fruitful in this monopolistic or monopolistic market, where it is a highly imperfect market structure, how it will be competitive as apprehended. And honorable speaker Ghuman also said that. So that also I want to, so anyway, so and your last point is that whether this weakening of the state's role in this case, and bypassing through the multinational, taking everything in the center's hand, that they will play the role through these laws, how much that will be a beneficiary or means benefiting the farmers, that is there anyway. So these are some questions. And even here in this chat box, that anonymous person had written that what is the harm when private people come in and they help shifting of cultivation from rice and other products which is more water intensive to the other proteinous foods and other production, soybean, etc., dal or oil seed, whatever you say. So what is your problem? But as I said, they are farmers themselves, they can choose what to produce, where they will get more expected gain, expectation. There may not be net gain, actual gain. As I said in the beginning, that what I want, given or not given, is not important. I expect that there will be more profit from potato, so I cultivate more potato this year. Ultimately, it comes down that potato price crashed that year. I got the incurred losses also. That may also happen. Basically, farmers always operate on expectation, depending on their previous experience. So nothing is there on the private or public. Even in this year, I saw potatoes today also I purchased at 55 rupees per kg. And so the seeds also price is too high. But their total cultivation did not come down. So because farmers' expectation again. So even despite that, almost doubled the cost of cultivation this year. So these are some things, how this government policy helped them. Now whether I come back to Professor Amarendra Reddy, who is at IARI New Delhi as a principal scientist and agricultural economics, ICER Research Center, Institute for Dryland Agriculture, Hyderabad. So he has a lot of experience and definitely more marketing and other related issues. We want to hear from him. Professor Reddy, please, your comments and any queries that you can put here.
Yes, sir, you can unmute yourself.
Please unmute. Please
Sir,
unmute.
Yes.
Unmute.
Sir, yes.
I'm audible?
Yes, sir, you are audible. And Professor Reddy also writes a lot on these issues. Welcome.
Yeah. Thank you once again for IMPRI and also Ranjit Singh for a very good presentation. Actually, he concluded very nicely at the end. What he suggested, why this Punjab agriculture is in crisis, maybe last 20 years. Although they are the pioneer in Agrarian Revolution, after that, somehow, because I want to give some different opinion when compared to the other two speakers, little bit. Of course, they are the green revolution belt, and they, because of them, entire nation is proud for that food security they offer to entire country 60s, 70s, and 80s. However, that all these the MSP, this procurement, all these still concentrated, heavily concentrated. As a result of this concentration, the concentration of paddy and wheat is much higher in Punjab and Haryana. What Dr. Ranjit Singh suggested is that diversification is very much required. So that is one point which is already taken by many economists. And also what he told is he don't want to repeal the laws. What he suggested is suspend the laws. Why? Because what is his whole idea is there is a trust deficit among the farmers. What government is going to do? Especially because there are three laws in this. One is I will simply call as free market law. First, APMC law is a free market law. That is opening up of the market. That is one. First one. Second one is means agreement, contract farming law. Second one is contract farming law. The third one is Essential Commodities Act. So what happened in the first, the opening up of APMC markets is they are opening up entire state outside the APMC markets. That is, they are calling as a trade area. Trade area. We all know all the lacunas in the APMC market. APMC market is not actually, it's a platform. APMC is a platform in which 20, 30, 40 traders, commission agents sit and they trade and all these things. It's a platform. APMC is a platform. Even though APMC is regulated, everything is there, but even government is telling we all know there is some type of collusion and all these things. But when there is a trade area which is spanning across the state, trade area means spanning across the state, within not only outside the boundaries of the APMC market. When it is spanning across the state, whether it is trade area means it is the farm gate, it is the local mandi, it is anywhere. Whomever having PAN card, he can buy from the farmers. Whether it is a big retailer like Ambani, what is that? That Adani type of thing, or Reliance Fresh, whomever, big and small, everybody can purchase from anyone. That is so. When APMC, which is regulated, there are some problems within APMC. How we can ensure a better and coordinate and very regulated market outside the APMC market, which is a trade area? That's a big question. So that's a big question. That's why all the farmers are, this is unknown territory. Unknown territory. Of course, now also this trade area is nothing but every farmer. 95% of 96% of the farmers now also they are selling outside the APMC to small petty traders and all these things they are doing. But now they are legalizing it under central laws. So that is there. So there are some benefits. What are the benefits? For example, the trade area APMCs are not there in Bihar, and Ranjit Singh sir also mentioned APMCs were not there in Bihar and Kerala. There is no infrastructure development in those markets. Their MSP is much, the price realized by paddy and wheat farmers are even 10-20% lower than the Punjab farmers. And the MSP main purpose is twofold. One is for paddy and wheat is food security to procure from the farmers at MSP. But another, the remaining 20 commodities, it is a signal price. There are pulses, oil seeds, everything price, there is MSP. But it is only signal price. Government is not procuring from any farmers anywhere, all these 20 commodities. It's only signal price. So what the government intention is that if we are giving some signaling, so the prices will fluctuate around the signal, that signal price, they may not much vary from, out of the range. That is the thing. So when we are some farmers organizations, that they are telling this guaranteed MSP should, you have to guarantee it. So because simple thing is that when we are procuring, we are not even procuring all the remaining 20 commodities. That's number one. We are only procuring paddy and wheat. That too Punjab and Haryana mostly, and the remaining states also, Andhra Pradesh also, we are procuring. Thing is that for paddy and wheat and for Punjab and Haryana, the remaining sector, the cost is really going about 2 lakh crore rupees. 2 lakh crore rupees. If you guarantee that price to all the commodities, most of the diversified pulse farmers, oilseed farmers, coarse cereal farmers, all these farmers, if you guarantee that minimum support price, you have to establish all the procurement centers, number one, and also you have to increase budget from 2 lakh crores to maybe 10 lakh crores, which is beyond the capacity of the state. So even, of course, United States of America, Madam told that, Swarna Madam told that USA and European Union, they are having huge subsidies. those governments are having a lot of capacity to subsidize because farmers are less than 5% of their population, but we are about 50% of the population, and that is beyond the capacity. That what is the via media? Via media is there are some government schemes like Balwantar, Madhya Pradesh, price deficiency payment system is there. Of course, there are some implementation problems. So price deficiency payment scheme is, of course, we are giving har cheap pulses. You are giving minimum support price for 60 rupees per kg, whereas market price is 40 rupees. Model price, market model price. 60 minus 40 is a 20 rupees. It will go 20 rupees into how many kgs farmers sold in the open market. That money directly will go into the farmer's account. That type of course, still it is not standardized. There are some loopholes, implementation problems were there because any government scheme, it may not be done in overnight time. Maybe it may take time. Of course, even MG Nareka also 2006 it is introduced. When 2006 there are many loopholes. Now by 2020 we are at least we overcome many of the loopholes in the MG Nareka scheme. Similarly, this type of things. Again, what Madam and also Ranjit Singh sir mentioned is okay. We are opening up the markets of Bihar and Kerala. Who will invest? We will go into very remote and very remote villages which are very backward. We will go and invest. Any private company wants to invest in biotechnology or IT, information technology, software, roads, real estate, this type of things. No private company is able to come into the picture to put up buffer stocks and all these things in a bigger way. Of course, Essential Commodities Act and has removing that stock limits. Maybe government thought that we can facilitate private sector to come in a big way, but that may lead to the monopsony situation and that in the trade area, monopsony situation in the trade area. And then when there is a monopsony situation in the trade, oligopsony, monopsony situation in the trade area, when that monopsony, oligopsony situation in the trade area outside the APMC market, how government can regulate it? That modalities are not there in the new act. How a government, because it's again tussle between state and central. Agriculture is a state subject. And once if central government puts some national regulation authority, then it's an encroaching on the state government purview, agriculture. Why you are coming in? So there are some things which are there which needs to be discussed with the farmers and come out with some sort of the solutions. Again, that what Ranjit sir already mentioned is an urgency, emergency, hurrying things. Again, there is no, if they could have debated in parliament and also state assemblies, then the things could have been better than what is the current situation. Okay, this the even Yogender Yadav, what I listened is, so when the private companies comes in a big way, they enhance the price. Once they enhance price, the APMCs will be closed down. Once they close it down, capacity to procure at MSP will go down. Once these things happens, once APMC closes down, once MSP capacity is closed down, then private sector will decrease prices to the farmers. That is the hypothesis. That is still questionable. How to regulate this type of monopoly? Again, this is an open question. Still further, but ultimately, what I feel Ranjit Singh's presentation is very clear because he is in hotbed. He is in Punjab crisis, in the middle of the Punjab crisis. What his suggestion is diversification fund to be created, which should be more than the MSP which they are getting from the paddy. Then only farmers who can move from paddy to pulses or oil seeds and other commodities. That is number one. And suspend the laws probably for the time being and go back to the discussion table, discuss with the farmers groups, discuss with the state governments, come out with better solutions, democratic solutions. Of course, the overall trend is probably right. One, farmers has to get more options. and also the you see the Pepsi contract farming, what Ranjit Singh sir mentioned, that Sujit Singh means Utpal Singh's study, which shows that most of the contract farming, they mostly benefited the large farmers. So how we can safeguard the interest of the small farmers? That should be there in the explicitly, that should be there in the second law, which is contract farming law. So I think this is what my thoughts. Probably again, this is a bigger agrarian distress question. What Ranjit Singh sir mentioned is the agrarian crisis, which is farmers are even though their share in population is 50-60%, their contribution to GDP is only 14%. So their incomes are maybe 1/3 of the non-farm sector. Even that is the big question mark. How to increase the farmers' income in a medium term or short term period? How probably the best solution is a structural change in the economy is required. Some people, at least some 10-20% of the farmers, has to get out of the agriculture sector and put up some petty business or within rural areas or urban areas, whatever it is. One middle path is the targeted basic income schemes, which is the PM Kisan scheme, which is there, which gives 6,000 for each farmer, or even Raitu Bandhu, if Telangana, even Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh, there are some schemes which direct money transfer to the farmers based on their acreage or their farmer status, so that direct money transfer will go help enhance their capacity to shift from, especially from agriculture sector to non-agriculture. Some safety nets like NREGA, all these things to be strengthened, especially public sector extension system needs to be strengthened, so that productivity of the farmers has to increase. Now it is, when compared to the global productivity, we are just 1/3 or 1/4 in average across the country's comparison. We have to increase productivity, then only the farmers will move out of from agriculture sector to non-agriculture. That is the long run solution. But what the short term solution is the diversification fund, suspend laws for a little time, and discussion in a much broader scale. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Professor Reddy, for your important points that you have given. Of course, that discussions through that best thing comes out. Instead of hurriedly passing out the bill, some discussions could be there, though they are pointing out that from government sides that they have taken inputs from some lakhs of people. I don't know that comments people have given or suggestions, whether they have been incorporated or how they have been incorporated, because another apprehension was there, if there is a dispute in this contract farming or other, so with the multinational by a small farmer, they cannot go for the dispute settlement in court or any other thing. So these are some small bylaws are there inside. So unless we go very minutely, it is very difficult. So before we switch over to other panelists like Professor Sridevi, Professor Dr. Kumar and Simi and other panelists here, so I think a lot of questions already came. It would be better if Professor Ghuman could give some reply, and how you can throw some light how to come out of these obstacles if these stalemates continue. So what has to be done, how to remove the obstacles or continue the solutions to this issue. Professor Ghuman,
thank you for giving me.
Will you like to give your reply now, and then we will take some more questions and comments from others?
Okay. Thank you very much for my fellow panelists, and thank you very much for all those who have raised very pertinent questions. Now, one question came that Punjab Haryana farmers are agitating, others are not. This is not the whole truth. Other farmers in other states are also agitating at their own places, but due to proximity to Delhi, farmers from UP, Uttarakhand, Rajasthan, Haryana, Punjab, they are more in number. Second, the farmers in Punjab and Haryana, they know that what MSP means. Sorry.
Yes, sir, you got muted somehow. Professor Ghuman. Again, sir.
Professor Ghuman, you are on mute.
I think connectivity is
Professor
a
Ghuman,
You are
problem.
on mute.
There's some problem
Please
with the
unmute, sir.
speaker.
Yeah, there is some problem. The voice is not
There's
really
some
clear.
problem. I don't know.
Echo is there.
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
yes, sir, we can hear you.
Okay. Okay.
Some hedgy little.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir, we can.
Okay. Okay.
Go
Then
ahead.
sorry. Then in Punjab, farmers are, I think, were, were are more organized. They are more aware of the benefit they are enjoying, and many of the other states, it's not the agricultural cropping pattern is not exactly like that, and the surplus, marketable surplus with them is also not very high. So, and also the 86% of the farmers are small, and and probably they are not in that organized than what Punjab and Haryana farmers are, UP farmers. And secondly, the green revolution in wheat and paddy came through Haryana, Punjab, and Western UP. So the other states did not experience that level of green revolution. Second is that crop diversification. Why Punjab is in crisis? That crop diversification, I agree, is the need of the hour. We in Punjab, we have calculated 85% of the paddy produce is being given to the central pool, and that way we are exporting our groundwater in the form of rice. This needs to be tackled, and in the times to come, we will have to diversify. And in my talk also, I suggested that it's not like Niti Yog's deputy chairman, Rajiv Kumar's suggestion, or what we call Prabachan, that they advised CM of Punjab that you should diversify. You must help, and central government must note it that you people promoted paddy in Punjab and Haryana, and now it can't be. Sorry, again, there is some problem. I don't know why. Now, why then we are being advised that you should take care on your own? It's like that you should be worried about yourself. We don't need your help now. But when this is not the so Professor Reddy rightly said that diversification fund needs to be created, and Professor Swarna also emphasized that this is not the way to connect the laws and all that. Then concentration of wheat and paddy in Punjab. Professor Reddy raised this point, and also raised the point that how can government spend 10 lakh crores of rupees on this procurement of all the prices at MSP. Nobody is saying that, and nobody is doing that. In Shanta Kumar committee said that it is only 6%. But the Shanta Kumar committee used this argument against MSP, not for MSP. If it is for only 6% of the producer farmers, it should be enhanced. And Madam Dr. Swarna rightly said that if there is no benchmark, or if there is no floor price or MSP, how can you assure what is going on in the market? But with the reference price, I think even if government is not, even now out of 23 crops, government is not procuring all that. But there must be some reference price below which you cannot purchase. Unfortunately, the MSP became the procurement price over the period of time, which is not good. And lastly, I would like to say one thing, that these agricultural laws will bring very, very serious changes, maybe important changes in the times to come in the agriculture sector and in the economy. Did the government undertake any social and economic impact study, that how it will impact the farmers, how it will impact the poor, how it will impact the growth rate, how it will impact the consumers and all that? I think they should have been done. That what will be the social economic impact? And lastly, there is UN resolution, and that resolution says that whenever you are to legislate on rural or agricultural sectors, you will have to take care of and take the suggestions, advice of the rural and agricultural people. The government has not taken this. This is the style which they are using. 1 lakh or 2 lakh people they have consulted. Maybe out of those 2 lakhs, 10 maybe in agriculture. Who knows it? Because data releasing by this government is very, very serious problem. First, they didn't release the unemployment data. Then they didn't release NSSO data of consumption data. So, though in the absence of data, how can people debate on it, and how can you formulate policies? That is the last is the social justice. Are we doing social justice to the farmers who have spent generations on producing more and more food grains? Again, I emphasize that it is not the farmers of Punjab, Haryana or Western UP who are interested in promoting paddy. It was the enabling environment which made them to go in for this paddy promotion. My submission is that please do not do diversification. Do not compel farmers to go in for diversification with arm twisting. My simple suggestion is, as a student of economics, that bring in the compatible policies with which I tell you, in Punjab Agriculture University, there are more than 30 scientists who are in seed breeding and all that, wheat and paddy, but there is hardly 1 or 2 scientists who are in other crops, pulses and paddy, pulses and oilseeds. So why is it? Why not R&D in those alternate cropping patterns? There is heart on this day. The moment you assure the farmers that you will get at least minimum assured income, whether by public procurement or private procurement, what you are getting from wheat and paddy, they will switch over. They have no emotional attachment to paddy. What the economic rationality pushes them to go in for that, and I'm worried that if diversification takes place like this, it will have serious socio-economic political implications, which should be avoided. And I do agree that diversification is the need of the hour, but it's not the way with which the government wants by arm twisting. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. In fact, the ministry's name is also Ministry of Agriculture and Farmers Welfare. Yes, Professor Utpal.
Yeah, so thanks a lot. Actually, your audio had some little problem, I think, Professor Ghuman. Anyway, in this technical hiccup will be there definitely in our online mode. So sometimes I also face here. Now, of course, that question, that in that question answer section somebody wrote that how to come out, because as in the picture also I saw that many farmers or those who are agitators is on the road at night, they are sleeping, how to come out. Anyway, and Professor Ashok Gulati and others, they are in favor of this bill also, who had written that time when onion price was very high. Even this year also, onion price sometimes is not very high.
Right from the beginning.
Yeah, those things are also there, but we don't think that this all high price is going to the pocket of the farmers, whatever. Anyway, it's only businessmen. Rather, farmers are the net buyer at this point of time. So now I would like to invite Professor Sridevi, who is at Hyderabad Central University in the Department of Economics. And one day we were lucky to hear her, though I missed a major part of that lecture on the health sector issue. Anyway,
I will
so
send.
madam, you give your points here.
Yeah, thank you, Arjun. And,
Nutrition and health now today on agriculture.
exactly, but they all are interlinked anyway.
Interlinked. Poverty, all these things, yeah, related.
Exactly. So after hearing all the experts' viewpoints, I start with the three important aspects what Dr. B.R. Ambedkar has written his one of the important papers in 1918, Small Holdings and Remedies. Dr. Ambedkar's view on Indian agriculture during that time was that there was a lot of literature and debate where it was, it was largely said that Indian agriculture, because of large number of farmers, the small and marginal farmers, hence their productivity levels are very low. That is the so in a way leading to a debate that small holdings and lower level of the productivity. But Ambedkar made it very clearly that it is not because of the small holdings, but it is because of the capital investment, what is going to that piece of land, basically. So when we are not having a required appropriate investment for the given land, obviously the productivity levels will be low. Over time, if you look into the Indian agriculture scenario after the independence, over the years, the capital formation has declined, public capital formation. And the private capital formation is in a different way, helped only few people actually, not the small and the marginal farmers. So that is one argument. The second argument he tries to bring out is that small holdings problem is not because of law of inheritancy, because land is divided, hence the productivity levels of the Indian agriculture is very low. But it is because of the malfunctioning of the social economy. That is, as there is no alternative employment is provided for the people of the rural economy who are completely dependent on the agriculture. So they are mostly dependent upon the agriculture, leading to the low productivity. So once the state provides the alternative employment opportunities, then obviously there is a change in the levels of the productivity. So the solution what he gives is the industrialization and shift of the labor from the agriculture to the non-farm activities. But however, in 1947, he advocated the collectivization of the agriculture as a final solution to the Indian agriculture labor problem. That under this scheme, basically, he argues that the agriculture land should be under the control of the state, and state is supposed to distribute the capital, everything required to the productivity, and state has to distribute the collective land equally without making any distinction between the landowner, tenant, or the labor. So the state has to pay a kind of a compensation or the dividend to the owners. Okay, so in a way, Ambedkar was propagating in a way the land should be under the control of the state, which may lead to the equal distribution economically, and it may have the social benefits also in the long run, because most, even the three bills or the discussion doesn't focus on how these farm bills are affecting the poor and the socially marginalized groups and women farmers, because now we also see that in rural areas the percentage of the women farmers are also increasing. So the bills doesn't discuss anything about these particular groups, not the discussions focus on these particular groups basically. See, but in the process of the development, we always assume that there should be reforms, but the reforms should be discussed, communicated, and with the trust, the reforms has to take place. But the way the bill was brought out and approved has actually lost the trust, basically leading to the trust deficit among the academicians, farmers, or various other groups. And if we look into the capital formation data over the last 70 years, the infrastructure is built by only the state governments or the center, not the private organization. So how can we say that now, because you involve the private corporates and it is trying to improve the infrastructure and farmers will have a benefit? Because in one way, I see these bills as promoting group of the capitalists, leading to crony capitalism. Like we see that there is a continuous investment by Adani Group in agriculture, as well as the Reliance Fresh or whatever it may be. And it in long run, it leads to no competitive, the competitive nature in the agriculture will be lost. And but it will only lead to the concentration of the few people in the agriculture sector. And once monopoly power comes into the farm sector, then it will only benefit the corporate sector, and farmers do not have any say in fixing the price or whatever it may be. So when it comes to the trade areas and talking about the trade areas, farmers will gain because of the creation of the trade areas. Even now, farmers are those who are able to, they're actually selling it in outside the APMCs. So there is nothing new that because of creating the trade areas, but creating the trade areas may lead to actually conflict with the APMC, and then the price negotiation or bargaining power of the farmer may be lost in the long run. And the role of the state government is very crucial in agriculture. If we look into the Telangana and Andhra Pradesh, Telangana government, because of various policies or the climate change issues, this year they announced that don't cultivate so and so crops, only go for a particular crop, so that you will be provided the insurance and best price was given to you. Like Raitu Bandhu programs are providing the fertilizers. In AP, actually fertilizer seeds are provided to the farmers directly by the gram volunteers without involving any middleman, and the insurance and everything is given to the farmer directly. So the state do play an important role, which center cannot do all this actually. Center, by taking away the powers of the state governments, I think it is more harmful to the individual farmers rather than benefiting them. The other important aspect I would like to say is that, like, once we look into the history of the Bihar APMCs, they are broken, but we have the best examples from the Punjab also. Punjab APMCs plays an important role in fixing the prices, and the farmers are very happy. But at the same time, none of these bills talk about any kind of the ceilings or land redistribution or the kind of farmer suicides which is happening during the last few years because of the climate change. So even while talking about these bills, even we neglect to talk about the farmer suicides issues also. Because if you look into the recent farmer suicides report, actually there is a rise in the farmer suicides. Farmers, in the sense, because of the climate change impacts. Previously, when we are talking about the farmer suicides, we used to consider only a debt trap as one of the important factor pushing them to the suicides. But climate change is also an important aspect which we try to brought out by looking into the social vulnerability aspects, how the social vulnerability pushes them to various aspects in a different way, because the caste politics determines access to public resources like irrigation or whatever, village well or common property resources. So when without addressing these marginalized groups and women, talking about the few sections within the agriculture community, I don't think will give us an appropriate result. So we all, I strongly feel that there is a need for the redistribution of the land and ceilings on land holdings, because most of the, even if I consider Punjab has the highest scheduled caste population, but 3.49% of the households only control the land, in the sense they have access to land. So the remaining households do not have any access to the land. Most of the scheduled caste households in rural areas even now remains to be landless or tenant farmers. So we also need to strengthen the tenant laws, which Andhra Pradesh government is trying to do in a different way, but still long way to go. And without addressing the absentee landlordism and tenant reforms, land redistribution, we may not be able to have the better future for the agriculture farmers or the agriculture laborers who are coming from the marginalized groups. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You have raised one very important issue, that we cannot ignore the role of the states, definitely. As all of you know, that the redistribution of land that you raised here, that was done havocly in West Bengal during the left regime, definitely. Land reforms, distribution through the Tenancy Act and Operation Borga, all these. Also states role there in provide electricity as some subsidized rate to the farmers. So that that has some people say that it has adverse impact because of lifting of the huge groundwater irrigation. So later on turned into arsenic problem in many areas. So pros and cons are there, but we have to see whether long term, how long we can think. Present people are suffering from the food crisis or this poverty. So first to give them some sustenance, or we will preserve water only for future, after 50 years, next generation will enjoy, but we will die by that time. So these are there, long-term, short-term, the trade-off, all these things. But definitely state's role is there. Even I have seen that through panchayats, they took the leading role during the seasons to distribute the seeds when there is a crisis of the mustard seed, wheat seed, all these. Even distribution of the fertilizer when there was a crisis of the DAP, urea, etc. That farmers need very much during the season. In November for the cultivation of potato, but used to come in the month of January. That time cultivation is over. So because of the distribution, government officials work, paperwork, and so when there was no taker, those seeds people used to take home and they used to consume only. Those that is also there. But on an overall, the machinery was in place and government tries to do for the farmers, state government specifically. So the role you cannot ignore. On many occasions we have seen that is there. So these are good things. And also you mentioned about the rising women farmers. Though earlier not much interested in farming, but many women farmers now we see they don't hesitate, they come out. So how they will cope up with this situation? So who can take the benefit of this new law, and how it will help the majority? And the capital scarcity question that you for mitigating that. Of course, self-help groups and other things, these are still there in many places, but still we find some lacuna. Grameen Bank is there, so many cooperatives are there. So since our independence, these are there for helping farmers anyway. So now I would like Dr. Simi, please give your valuable inputs. So you
I don't
for a
know
long time you are
valuable.
waiting and you have some important questions in mind,
No,
I
no,
see.
no.
So
Well,
please come forward.
thank you,
Thanks.
sir. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity. Actually, it may not be as valuable as the respected panelists have discussed already. And thank you, Professor Ghuman, for your enlightening and informative remarks. It was a real treat to listen to you, and it really clarified several doubts that I personally had. I have just 2 points to make. First is, should we approach the farmers as a homogeneous community? Second is that is this whole the rush to pass this act and to execute it, is this somehow related to achieving the objective of doubling farmers income by 2022? Because if we see, effectively we have 1 full year to achieve this. Had this had these 3 acts not come into place, do you think that this was attainable at all? Or these 3, once it is in place, do you think it will hasten up the process? So if you could comment on these. And thank you so much again. Thank you, sir.
Dr. Simi, could you please repeat your first question?
Sir, my question is that, do you think that we should approach the farmers as a homogeneous group? That farmers, because there are rich farmers, middle income farmers, and also the poor farmers, as very much evident in the eastern areas like my own home state of Jharkhand. So if you could comment on that. And should we approach them differently?
In fact, my take on that is that farmers are not a homogeneous group. Farmers are a heterogeneous group. There are small farmers, marginal farmers, and even among the small and marginal farmers, there is a lot of difference between the holding size. Unfortunately, it is we are taking only operational holding. So it is not necessary that we should take farmers as homogeneous group. But when it is a question of some benefits, they do mobilize as a homogeneous group. My submission here is that the policies should concentrate more on small, marginal, and semi-medium farmers rather than all the farmers as a group. One, the same argument I'm giving about MSME and micro, this, because they are not comparable to all that. Again, there is some problems with the audio. I don't know why it is so.
Yes. Hello.
So
Okay,
at the policy level also, there should be a different set of policies for marginal and small farmers. Nobody denies that shifting of workforce, in fact, long-term dynamics of growth, elder, etc. They suggest us that we'll have to, but unfortunately, at the all India level, occupational diversification has not happened in agriculture, but income diversification has. Sectoral structural change is in terms of income, not occupation, employment, etc. Second is that rush of price.
Okay.
Has been muted.
No, I think video has stuck up.
Professor Ghuman.
poor connectivity.
No problem.
Okay, sir.
Yes.
Arjun, you
Yes.
tell
Thank you.
your point
We have
something,
two very distinguished
Dr.
panelists.
Arjun.
Yes. So I was also thinking to get also some of their views on many aspects we raised this evening. So one thing I really thought to ask both our panelists, Professor Vepa and also Professor Reddy, that India has also not joined RCEP, saying that we are not competitive enough. And Professor Ghuman was mentioning time and again that we are looking for enabling environment for doubling farmers' income. And now we are stuck with this in this winter here in North, and also in COVID times. And the way forward, it's not looking, a very low hanging fruit in terms of anything. So when we are looking at the cold chain, there was some push, but not very much enough. And ma'am also raised the point of enam, so that push has also been there. And I would say there has been record improvement, but not quite enough to match the aspiration of all, or even to the satisfaction to normal consumers also. And the private sector part also ma'am has raised. And recently I just thought to come to this, also registered to this deliberation last year, in terms of agriculture. I would say the whole narrative was very positive. In fact, a few months ago only, Prime Minister, when he sent the 2,000 rupees to 8.5 crore farmers, considered to be one of the largest cash transfer in the world. So that also happened. And then we also have the new thing coming, Atmanirbhar Krishi, 1 lakh crore for physical infrastructure. So, and now as we see the scenario, but one thing which is really coming forward very much, that there has to be consultation, discussion, and Professor Vepa is also suggesting that we should have a pan-India survey, real time, because in election it is happening, all the exit polls. So why not for these public policy important matters, so that we have a sense where we are going in a more evidence manner. So, and but there has been also confrontation between, I would say, many economists now and policy people. So it's going in very different direction. So why not we should have now our concluding thoughts towards the way forward, that what should happen. Our budget session is also now coming next month. So it's going to be a very hard time for all of us to devote ourselves into this kind of tough discussion and see how the things progress. So shall we go to Professor Vepa first? Professor Day?
Yeah, you are right that referendum, as you are telling, whether we can go for referendum. But they are telling some opinions they have taken from people, but whether really and who gave the referendum, those who are facing problems, stakeholder, they gave, or some businessmen gave. That is also not clear. The farmers gave an opinion, or the town in the city sitting some people or big people, they don't know the reality whether they gave the. That is also another issue. Okay, Madam Professor Vepa, please.
You are muted. Please unmute yourself. Professor Vepa. Yes.
And unmute and please speak.
Left
Professor
bottom,
Vepa, please unmute.
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Can you hear me?
We can.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm sorry, I don't think referendums will go the way it has happened in case of Britain, where everybody was enthusiastic, and then at least whether it's good or bad for the country as a whole, they did express their opinions, and I don't think such a thing will happen in India. But what I'm saying is, just because the issues are not debated and not, I've seen only from the point of view of some people, particularly the economists and the journalists and the public should not jump to conclusions about what is good for people and what is bad for people. I mean, that is a general statement which I'm doing. But while it is very important to get the opinion, I think, no, sorry. You want to say something?
Ma'am, sir is a researcher. He will say something, of course.
Yeah, I think Professor Ranjit Singh wanted to say something.
Yes, yes.
Am I allowed?
Yes, yes. Please, sir.
Okay, okay, thank you. In fact, this is very, very important question and challenge. What's the way forward? One, how to tackle the immediate crisis of deadlock.
I'm not able to hear him properly.
Yes, ma'am. Some problem is there.
Then
If you can be
one
patient,
is,
you can hear. Yes.
can you hear me now?
Yes, yes, sir.
Yeah. Can you
One is that to address the immediate crisis, which is deadlock, I think only table talk and give and take on both sides can help. And government's responsibility is much higher than this. But the problem is that again the government is not in that particular mood that winter session has been postponed. Why winter session has been cancelled? This is a serious issue. And why in the Rajya Sabha voting was not done? Debate. So way forward to the crisis, present crisis is that debate in the state assemblies, stakeholders and parliament, and then come out with the new reforms in the agriculture. If all they are important, of course, agriculture needs reforms, but they should be debated. And second is there should be a marathon debate in the state assemblies, the stakeholders, public debate, parliament, that how to address the agrarian crisis which India is facing. It's not simply these laws only. The crisis has been looming very large since for the last 2-3 decades in the agriculture. So I think the issue is not simply these laws. We will have to go beyond these laws. Of course, these laws are in the center, and probably something good may come out of it because these laws have triggered the point and the much needed debate on the issue. Thank you very much.
So, thanks a lot, Professor Ghuman. So many aspects have come and through discussion, so we got many ideas. So, Dr. Reddy, would you like to give your last point? Otherwise, we will wind up thereafter. Professor Reddy.
Everything is almost covered, but in the long, because what we are thinking is an agrarian crisis. There is no symptoms. So how to reduce this agrarian crisis in the long run is structural change is required. At least 10-20% of the farmers has to move to rural industries, construction, manufacturing, this type of thing. Again, cash transfers, Raitu Bandhu, PM Kisan, crop insurance schemes, or income insurance. Income insurance are when we are moving out of MSP slowly, but we need to have other safety nets like cash transfers, crop insurance schemes, or income insurance schemes. This type of things needs to be developed. Safety nets needs to be developed in the transition period, and especially agriculture is low profitable business for even private sector or even government also, even farmers. Everybody is a low profitable because the commodity sector is always going down in their share in national GDP. That is the main structural problem. So how we can finance this type of infrastructure, everything through financial viability gap type of thing, public investments in research and development, and also the extension. These are some of the things at a macro level we have to see in the longer term perspective. That is my concluding remarks.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Definitely income insurance that is needed, especially agriculture, which is much of the natural calamity dependent, that most of the time adversely affect the products, how they, and the cash transfer, whenever you say that 2000, as Dr. Arjun was also telling, that is 2000 after 4 months, that means per month barely 500. And when the same farmers became the net buyer, because those who sold last year paddy, now they are now after selling, they are helpless. Now they are buying back the rice. So you will see that same potato, onion, anything. So they small farmers, they don't preserve. So they sold at 5 rupees kg potato. Now they are purchasing at 50 rupees kg back. So you gave 500 per month, and in one day you took out from his pocket more than 500 because of this high price. You sold mustard at 2000 rupees per quintal, but now you are buying the mustard oil 150 rupees per 1 liter. So the question, whereas if he could have the same capital, he could crush his own mustard and enjoy that. It could be barely cost 90 rupees or 80 rupees, isn't it? So these cracks will always be there. This market impression, when you are selling, when you are buying at different points of time, what is the parity and how to ensure that? Otherwise, from individual plot of land, you see many of the times it is not that of non-profitable. Profit is there. Problem lies with that majority are the small farmer. Their total land size is so much. Even if per unit profit comes more, it is not enough income that they can sustain for the whole year. So they need alternative income. So diversification, as you said, not only crop diversification, of course, enterprise diversification, food processing more. The stress should have been given on that side. Whatever raw products they are selling, rather involved in a cooperative system so that they can process further. Instead of buying the same mustard oil later, they can use themselves as well, sell outside. So that's that type of as self-help groups, and they could be more motivated like that. I think some income. Otherwise, how your contribution or income you will see, instead of the farmers selling at the harvest price, if you calculate, it will not be double. But since in the history, I never saw that per unit of per kg potato 60 rupees this year I saw. Till last year maximum came 30 rupees or 25 rupees here. So income is double because that money that comes by selling the potato is double in the market. But who got that money is not that important. So contribution in GDP at the market price, farmers become double. So it is not the farmer's income, but the income somebody else. But agricultural crops, its market price if you multiply. So how the calculations also, mode also may change. You don't know what will come. So I don't go into the deeper also. So later on, something you will get that the farmer's income has increased, maybe. So which way we don't know. So anyway, let us hope that it will go in a better way and something. Definitely all the, whenever any new laws or rules come, without dispute, it cannot happen. Even if some positive things are inside there, also some people oppose, that is also there. But obviously through the discussion, some of the loopholes that we observed, we can highlight that so that in future that can be also addressed and further changes can be made so that better policies can come, and that helps the farmer in true sense. Not only your normal crop, even those who are producing milk, those who are other agricultural sectors, they are involved, the processing of even the other agro-related items, that is poultry, everything, poultry, etc. So whatever you can say. So I think we had overall very good discussions and very informative discussions. Professor Ghuman, thank you very much for taking your time. More than 2 hours you were with us. And though initially Dr. M.B. Ashok joined, he could not stay for longer because he had other I thought that he could be, it would be more lively. And of course, we are very lucky to have two stalwarts, Professor Amarendra Reddy and Professor Madam Bhepa, and also definitely Professor G. Sidevi, who has diverse knowledge of different aspects, and our we can say panelists as well as the two hosts who gave me opportunity do these panel discussions and lead this, Dr. Arjun and Simi, and some other members who also participated and given us some questions here. I cannot name one by one, but several people joined through Facebook and YouTube channel I saw, and participants also there. So thanks a lot all of you. Have a good day, and ahead there will be Merry Christmas. So chilled already weather came. So we hope that in this chilled weather, these old people will not be lying on the road for longer period of time. Some settlement will happen very soon. So with that hope, I end this session, declare that this session is closed. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Vibha.
Thank you,
Arjun.
sir. Thank you. Have a good day. Bye.
Yeah.